During the horror category screening night at the Toronto Film Festival in 2016, there was a film that made the audience faint and required medical assistance. An ambulance was even on standby outside, in case things got worse. The reason was attributed to the incredibly realistic cannibalistic scenes in the film, and if you've heard about this news before, then you must know we're talking about Raw, the crazy debut of French filmmaker Julia de Cornel. Cannibalism may not be unfamiliar to horror enthusiasts like Hannibal or the Texas Chain Saw Massacre. However, even if mentally prepared, Raw remains an extreme experience, like a freshly cut piece of bloody meat from the body, a work that is unpolished and portrays the most brutal and purest aspects that cinema can exhibit to viewers. So what significance lies behind these gruesome cannibalistic scenes? What does the insanity remind humans of, about their primal instincts? And what does this terrifying 30-minute feast have to say? Today, let's decode Raw together, a film with no jump scares, but its sounds and images will linger with us forever. Before delving into the analysis, I want to say that this is a film that's quite challenging to fully grasp the meaning of each scene, so there may be some omissions or inaccuracies. If you've seen the movie and have a different perspective, feel free to share in the comments. Firstly, it may sound absurd, but in reality, Justin's journey of discovering herself as a cannibal represents the self-discovery of a teenager. For 18 years, she lived sheltered by her family, following the lifestyle imposed by her parents and never knowing what she truly likes. Obsessed with what? So when she steps foot into the dorm, the scene of Justin's belongings being rummaged through represents the disruption in her life. Here, without parents, without old norms, Justin is free to experience what she's never tried before. She sleeps with someone of the opposite sex, attends wild parties, and of course, discovers a craving she's never known the taste of. If we remove cannibalism from the context, the exploration of one's sexuality and true self, isn't that the journey of every teenager? On the surface, Raw is a coming-of-age film about a girl with firsts. In the film, there's a scene of a black horse running but tightly tied. It's like Justin herself, constrained from her true self, albeit that self may be incredibly gruesome. From a sheltered girl enveloped by her family, Justin gradually becomes accustomed to the debauched university life. She starts wearing colorful dresses, immersing herself in youthful pleasures, raising a second question, that if the goal was to depict a girl's journey to find her interests, why imply it with something as horrific as cannibalism? As we know, in reality, Justin's sister Alex is also a cannibal, so adopting a vegetarian diet is the family's way of restraining their daughter from bloodlust. I've read a pretty good hypothesis that, in reality, the act of tasting human flesh and enjoying it is similar to drug addiction, uncontrollable and endless. Therefore, integrating Justin's struggles could also be an allegory for societal temptations, young people reveling in freedom at university, away from parents, and possibly succumbing to vices. Viewed in this way, Raw isn't much different from the teachings we often hear at home, warning against indulging in vices. From a rabbit kidney to raw fish, pork, and then human flesh, Justin's addiction escalates over time. Realizing the wrongness of her cravings, her flesh addiction, in the film, we see many scenes of Justin vomiting or sticking her hand down her throat to induce vomiting, resisting her true self, refusing to accept that she's a cannibal, despite the gnawing hunger in her gut. Alex, on the other hand, is different. She's willing to jump into the street to cause a car accident, then feast on the accident victims. Alex is the disobedient child, she's not vegetarian, and as we've seen, she's not close to her parents either. Both sisters have a mutual friend, Adrian, and it's quite noticeable that this handsome young man often arouses desire in Justin and Alex. However, Justin manages to control herself. She'd rather bite her own hand than kill her roommate. As we've seen at the end of the film, Alex savagely devours Adrian's flesh, gnawing his thighs like a wild beast, only to face imprisonment as a consequence of letting her desires go too far. Raw from here is a two-sided picture of youth. It highlights the difficulties of integrating into a new environment, the contrast between the ego screaming to break the cocoon, but at the same time the words warns about the consequences of impulsive fun. One person stands outside and one person is imprisoned behind bars. These are two results of a series of different actions and choices. Not judging right or wrong, but rather is to portray the changes in perception of a teenager who is exposed to new things for the first time. Although Raw can be conveyed in an extreme way, as director Julia de Cornel herself shared, she doesn't want cinema to be an easy experience. Growing up is always a difficult journey. Set in a veterinary school, where students and people spend a lot of time interacting with animals and their corpses. Raw also puts in the middle of Justine's journey questions about the definition of humanity, animalism, and how we treat animals. Right in a conversation, a character said something like this, a question that seems very out of place but is quite reasonable, when we see that this is a veterinary school and the students' future responsibility is to save the lives of animals. But as we can see, to be able to learn about body structure, they must practice on their corpses. Through online research, these corpses can come from two places. One is that they were donated to the school by the previous owners of the pets, and two are from animals at the rescue shelter, which means they are still alive. Justin is a person who believes in the rights of animals. She believes that they also know pain. However, as in the conversation above, the remaining students were quite amused by Justin's comments, when considering animal emotions are on par with humans. So Raw is a mirror. If the audience feels disgusted with the scene where Justin eats his sister's finger, then how do you feel about the scene where Justin dissects a dog and sees its internal organs being pulled out? Outside, we cannot temporarily talk about ethical issues in research because we are not capable of evaluating them. However, placing cannibal scenes next to colorful animal scenes is a very clear connection for viewers to consider. Compare our actions. Are humans too different from animals? Yet we see veterinary schools being run like a herd of wild animals, with the young animals having to listen to their predecessors. If not, she would be eliminated. One big brother even forced Justin to have sex with a stranger she had never met, pour blood on him, eat raw rabbit kidneys, and do wild things. It's hard not to associate these students with wild animals, and even though their intentions are unclear of this scene, but aren't they all crawling on all fours like animals? Look at the scene where the two sisters, Alex and Justin, fight, biting each other. Yes, they bite each other like two flesh-eating beasts, and right after that, we see other students intervening by tightly tying a rope around their necks, much like leashing a dog. Raw brings humans and their actions very close to other species, showing just how intimate they are. We see the bodies of animals, specifically the uterine wall of a cow, and then a scene of Justin shaving to become more attractive. Justin's father mentions how dangerous it is for animals to taste human flesh, while his daughter stands next to him having just eaten her sister's finger, all blending together. Animalistic instincts, human nature, interpret the movie however you want. The wild feelings the characters in Raw evoke will undoubtedly make you doubt the humanity within each of us. And finally, Raw is a twisted family portrait, depicting the love and hatred within a blood relationship. At the end of the film, all the questions are answered. Justine and Alex's cannibalistic urges stem from their mother's genes. Indeed, it's a family disease that the two children have no choice but to live with. Alex has probably known for a long time, so when she sees her sister eating her own finger, she sheds a tear. Perhaps she's also sad that Justine can't escape the genetic toxicity that she herself carries. Alex then teaches Justin how to hunt, how to satisfy without leaving a trace. Even though it's wrong, it's still love. Revisiting the scene where the two sisters argue and seem to want to tear each other apart, their hatred seemingly breaking everything. Yet as soon as an outsider intervenes, they quickly unite, helping each other up, growling at all those around them. They're like two animals in the same pack, despite the arguments, bonded like blood and flesh of the same body. Justin eats Alex's finger, and Alex asks for a piece of flesh from Justin's cheek. When visiting her sister in prison, they joke about it. Alex raises her stump finger, while Justin presses her scarred cheek. There's something romantic about it, that despite the world's rejection, fighting until their heads are split open, they'll still always be family. Justin's father reveals in the ending scene the scars and exposes the horrific cuts caused by her mother during her hunger pangs. At this point, we notice a long scar under his nose, a kiss with teeth marks. I'm sure you can imagine what happened there, right? In my personal opinion, portraying the complex emotions of love and hate in a bloody family relationship is the aspect that Raw has done best. It depicts the harmful genetic inheritance passed down through generations, causing agonizing suffering, yet when there is love, we accept being torn apart and bleeding, trying to live together. It's both horrifying and profoundly bonding. When Justin discovers that Alex has eaten her best friend, she initially wants to stab Alex straight through the head, but then stops herself, leading Alex to the bathroom, where they both bathe each other. They wash away the blood from their bodies and await the impending doom ahead, tragic yet oddly sweet. Insane, extreme, and certainly not for the faint-hearted, Raw gives us the sense that every scene can be interpreted in two different ways: blood and flesh, animals and humans. Love and hatred intertwine in a simple storyline. And when the curtain falls, the audience is no longer sure whether they love or hate the film. Perhaps this ambiguity is the beauty of cinema, where we are free to draw our own hypotheses. What do you think about Raw? Share your thoughts in the comments below to discuss with us. And feel free to share other interesting works for us to evaluate in future videos.